Hello, third grade students and parents. This is Miss Martin, and I'm here to help explain your ESL menu for the week. And so I want you to remember that you are supposed to pick two different supports, two different boxes from this menu to complete and to send to Miss Nixon. So it's still broken up by the 4 different categories and by the different levels. So we have speaking, reading, listening, and writing. And it's broken up into levels 1 and 2, levels 2 and 3, and levels 3 and 4. So if you are completing the levels 1 to 2 box and you want to complete listening and writing, then that would meet the requirement of completing 2. You could pick reading and speaking, reading and listening. You just need to find your level and complete 2 of the boxes. So first, I'm going to start with all the different assignments for levels 1 to 2. And so for listening for levels 1 to 2, you are going to be watching a YouTube video. And the YouTube video should help you draw and label a map of Egypt. So this is going along with the assignments in the packet. And so the assignment in the packet asks you to pretend like you are an environmentalist. So an environmentalist is one of the ones that you can choose. And since you're pretending like you are an environmentalist, it's going to go along with the civilization of Egypt. So when you watch this video, it will help you know where to place different things on your map. So you should draw a map that includes the Nile River, desert, farm animals, fishing, farming, trading, and plants. You can be as creative as you want with your picture, but you should at least include pictures of all of those different words and all of those different parts of the Egyptian civilization, and the video will help you. So for reading for levels 1 to 2, you should read the sentences listed in the menu. It says, find and underline the following words: ancient, desert, located, and soil. So when you read these sentences, you should underline the words that I listed before. For example, it says, a desert is an area of very dry land that is usually covered with sand and is very hot. Do you see any of those key words in this sentence? If you do, you should underline it. Then it says, there are many deserts in Africa. Most of the land in ancient Egypt was desert. Ancient means very old. Long ago, the people of ancient Greece made beautiful buildings and sculptures. The top layer of earth in which plants grow is called soil. There was rich soil along the Nile River for farming. Newport News is located in Virginia. Ancient Egypt was located along the Nile River in northeastern Africa. So remember, we're looking for ancient, desert, located, and soil, and you should underline those words in the sentences I just read. After that, we can move on to speaking and writing. For speaking and writing, we have word banks. So for levels 1 to 2 speaking and writing, our words include first, then, next, and finally. You also have sentence frames. The sentence frames say, each day I, then I, next I, finally I. So for speaking, you should describe to a family member what you do in the morning. You should make sure you use the transition words such as first, then, next, and finally. You should give one detail about each. You can use the words in the word bank to help you. You could use the words wake up, go to the bus stop, get dressed, eat breakfast, brush my teeth. For example, I think what you would start with, you could say, first, I wake up. And then and you need to keep filling in the sentences and speak them out loud to someone. Next, for writing, it says, a griot is someone who tells stories in Mali. Draw a picture of a griot telling a story from the past to you and your friends. So we need to make sure that we draw a picture of the story being told. Once we are finished, now I'm going to move on to levels 2 and 3 explanations. So you're going to use the YouTube video. Again, it's the same YouTube video from levels 1 to 2, but your assignment's going to be a little different. So for levels 2 to 3, you're going to use the video to help you draw and label the map of Egypt from the environmentalist activity in the packet. You should make sure that you draw the Nile River, the desert, farm animals, fishing, farming, trading, and plants. You should then explain your map to a family member. Once you've finished explaining your map to a family member, then you can move on to reading. For reading, you should read the sentences below. You should find and underline the words ancient, desert, located, and soil. After you've found and underlined those words, then you need to write your own complete sentences using these words. So I'm going to read the sentences to you. It says, a desert is an area of very dry land that is usually covered with sand and is very hot. And the rest of the sentences are the same sentences that I read from levels 1 to 2. So I'm not going to repeat them, but you need to make sure that you're looking for the words ancient, desert, located, and soil. And you're going to need to make sure you know the meaning of those words, because then it asks you to write your own sentences using those words. After we've finished, we can move on to speaking and writing. So for the speaking section for levels 2 and 3 and the writing section, we have a word bank. Our word bank says fish, trade goods, farm, plants, reeds, pottery, and important. For speaking, it says ancient Egypt was located along the Nile River in northeast Africa. There was rich soil along the Nile River for farming. Along the Nile River, the people of ancient Egypt farmed, fished, and traded goods. You should tell a family member 3 reasons why ancient Egyptians lived along the Nile River. Then tell why it was important. You can use the ideas below to help you. So it mentions the words fish, trade goods, farm, use plants like reeds and tall grass, and it gives you some sentences. It says, ancient Egyptians lived along the Nile River because they could. This was important because. Then it says, another reason ancient Egyptians lived along the Nile River was because they could. This was important because. Then it says, a third reason ancient Egyptians lived along the Nile River was because they could. This was important because. And you need to fill in those blanks, and then you need to share that out loud with someone and tell them what you filled in those blanks and practice your speaking. After you finish that, we can move on to writing. For writing, it says, give 2 reasons why pottery was important to ancient Greece and Rome. What 2 things were used to decorate the pots? So you should make sure that you use complete sentences and give 2 reasons, and then say what 2 things were used to decorate the pots. For levels 3 to 4 for listening, you should use the YouTube video, just like the YouTube video that levels 1 to 3 have been using. But for levels 3 to 4, you also need to write 2 sentences about your map. So you need to make sure that you draw the map, label the map of Egypt from the environmentalist activity, but then after you've drawn and labeled the map from using the video, you should also write 2 sentences about your map. For levels 3 to 4 reading, you should finish the sentences below using the word banks. So your word bank includes the words natural resources, human resources, and capital resources. You need to decide which sentence describes each. So the first one says materials like water, soil, wood, animals, and plants are examples of. The second one says people who work to produce goods and services are called. The next one says tools and buildings are examples of. And you need to decide which word fits in which sentence and write it in the blank. For levels 3 to 4 for speaking and writing, you have a word bank. Your word bank is ancient, civilization, and important. So for our speaking section, we need to pretend like we took a trip to one ancient civilization. So you need to think about either taking a trip to Rome, Greece, Egypt, or Mali. You need to then tell a member 3 things you saw and why it was important. So the menu has provided some sentence frames. It says in ancient, so you should pick either Rome, Greece, Egypt, or Mali. This was important because they also had, this was important because another thing they had was, it was important because, so we need to do 3 things, and you can follow the sentence frame that's provided and fill in the missing words. Then, after you've finished your speaking section and after you've told your family member what you filled in, we can move on to writing. For writing, it says, a griot is someone who tells stories in Mali. Why were the griots important in ancient Mali? In a complete sentence, give 3 reasons. So you need to make sure you use a complete sentence, and you should give 3 reasons of why they were important in ancient Mali. Keep working hard.